Let's kick this off as usual with explaining parsing rules first. Everything during this encounter counts towards parses. However, the only exception is downtime between each boss phase. So the phase 1 to phase 2 intermission and phase 2 to phase 3 intermission is removed. But don't worry, because the damage done to snowballs during this time still counts towards your parse, only the time is removed. There is also no cap on snowballs at the moment, but this is something they might change in the future, so pay attention to the updates on WotLK website. When it comes to prepotting, it is very tricky to prepot here, as when Gormok the Impaler enters the arena, you will enter combat several seconds before you can actually engage the boss. So if you won't time it right, this can lead to accidentally wasting a potion, another one cannot be used during the encounter again. Even if you time it right, you will be left only with approximately 2 seconds of the prepot potion benefit, as you can see on the logs, so I'm usually not even bothering to prepot here, and looks like the same are doing the majority of high parsing druids. If you decide to prepot, however, I would say the Potion of Wild Magic is definitely the way to go, as your first two global cooldowns like Trance or Moonfire can still benefit from the extra spell power, and Potion of Speed is most likely a waste as you won't be casting Starfire in first few seconds anyway. This brings us to pull already. I'm usually skipping Fairy Fire here, since we have a Feral who is skipping it as part of his rotation, and there's also a Shadow Priest that's skipping Misery, as the effect of the debuff is the same. Just make sure it is up by someone, as we are losing our own personal DPS due to improved Fairy Fire talent. This is why my first global cooldown is usually Moonfire, to get the 200 critical strike rating buff as soon as possible. If you prepot it, this first Moonfire will also snapshot the Wild Magic Potion spell power, which you will even extend during your first lunar eclipse. The second global cooldown is either Trance or Insect Swarm depending on the situation. If there is no heroism on pull and I didn't prepot, I might go with Insect Swarm to have a chance to proc the trinkets, such as Flare of the Heavens, Dying Curse, Pandora's Plea, etc., before Trance and Starfall, so they can both benefit from it. And yes, I'm still doing Insect Swarm outside of Lunar Eclipse, and it still seems higher for my gear setup. However, after several weeks, when I progress with my gear, I might skip Insect Swarm altogether and keep it as a movement filler. If there is no heroism, but I did use Potion of Wild Magic, it's Trance before Insect Swarm, so they get extra spell power boost together with Moonfire, which was the first global cooldown. If there is a heroism on pull for some reason, it's Trance, and perhaps consider doing them even before Moonfire, to make sure they are casted before heroism. It depends on how impatient your guild shamans are. However, better heroism options are most likely either on Acidmaw and Dreadscale to burn them down faster, or on Icehowl after the charge while he's stunned and is taking increased damage. Then it's just Starfall before following the Eclipse rotation, and don't forget to mouse over the boss if you are using Serenite Bomb and Starfall mouse over macro as I am as well. I'm not delaying the Starfall, I explain why in multiple guides, so I'm not gonna do that again here, but hopefully Flare of the Heaven procs from the dots or from the first Wrathcast, so Starfall benefits from the spell power boost. After reaching the first lunar eclipse, this is where I want to pop hyperspeed accelerators and any unused trinket for some juicy Starfire nuke. I'm using simple macro for this that I just pop and start casting Starfire immediately. As you have probably noticed, this boss consists of 3 different sub-encounters, so I'll try to talk about tips for each phase, what are the mechanics that can hinder your parse, or how to squeeze some extra min-maxing here and there. Let's start with first one, Gormok the Impaler. First one, make sure you stay more than 15 yards from the boss due to Staggering Stomp, which is being casted roughly every 20 seconds, and this can not only interrupt your cast, but silences you for 8 seconds as well, so keep your distance. Second one, keep your distance from other players around you as well, due to fire on the ground, or specifically because of the firebomb that the snowball vassals are throwing. Movement is bad for us, especially since the 4-piece tier 8 instant Starfire proc is gone, and clipping Moonfire with the Glyph is bad idea. So just plan ahead and avoid other people and stay away from them more than 80 yards, to minimize the chances of getting unnecessary movement. Third one, if you do get the fire under you and you have to move, make sure you finish your cast time if the danger of dying is not imminent, and then use the global cooldown while moving out of it to throw an instant cast. Trance will be on cooldown at this point, and Starfall most likely too. If Starfall just came off cooldown and there is still some decent HP on Gormok left, use Starfall. However, if Starfall just came off cooldown and Gormok is about to die, it's better to save it for when Acidmaw and Dreadscale enters to have the more Starfall targets. So best option is to refresh Moonfire on Gormok if it just ran out, or to cast it on Snowball Vassals for multidotting. If there are no targets without Moonfire, do not clip it and instead cast Insect Swarm on target that is not affected by it already. You shouldn't multidot Snowball Vassals with Insect Swarm, so there should be available target for Insect Swarm while moving out of fire. If not for some reason, Typhoon, Innervate on you or Healer, or Fairy File on Snowball is an option too, but this should be last on priority list. Fourth one. If you have Glyph of Moonfire, Idol of Lunar Fury, and 2-piece tier 9 or better gear, you should multidot Snowballs with Moonfire, since it should be even better global cooldown spend than a Starfire cast while in Lunar in terms of DPS. But please do double check this on Sims for your gear setup. Just make sure the Snowball will survive the full duration of Moonfire, if not, do not cast it. Fifth one, you shouldn't hold and delay Starfall, as it cannot hit Snowballs anyway, so no point waiting for them to show up before casting Starfall. Sixth one is RNG if you get Snowballed or not. This can hinder your Parse significantly. I'm not saying it's impossible to achieve 99 when you are the chosen one, but at least it's making the road to 99 much more difficult. You can move to melee to get cleaved, you can ask to get bopped to not be interrupted, but it's pretty much ruined attempt for ranking high already, so good luck next week. Seventh and last one. When Gormok is killed and there are still some leftover Snowballs alive during the phase transition, DPS then down as this is still being counted towards your Parse, unless your internal cooldown of the trinket just came off cooldown, is ready again and the Snowballs are already low on their health. You want to avoid proccing your trinket right when Snowball is killed, and then have to wait for the worms to spawn, so the whole duration is wasted. Same applies for your other major cooldowns like Trends, Starfall, Hyperspeed Accelerators. Don't use them when they came off cooldown and Gormok has very little HP. It's similar with even Lunar Eclipse. I'd rather do 1 or 2 Starfire casts after Solar ended, not to accidentally proc Lunar Eclipse when the last vassal is killed and there is still time until worms are spawning. Which brings us to phase 2, Acidmaw and Dreadscale. First one, as we are using Heroism when both worms spawn, I'm trying to time my Lunar Eclipse proc when they spawn so I can pop everything, Starfall, Lunar Eclipse proc, Hyperspeed Accelerators, Potion of Speed, and hoping to get Flare of the Heavens proc at this time as well for some Starfire blasting. This is why you want to pay attention to cooldowns and timer at the end of phase 1 and leftover Snowballs. Second one, same as it was in phase 1, it's worth to multidot with Moonfire here as well. Third one, pay attention to submerge timer and try to refresh your dots just before they submerge, even if it means clipping the dots for a few seconds. The dots are still ticking on the target while they are traveling underground, so you're literally doing DPS when everyone else cannot. Fourth one, same applies for not wasting major cooldowns before the submerge. Don't forget to keep an eye on timer to avoid popping any major cooldowns just seconds before. Worst thing you can do is proc Lunar Eclipse, use Unused Trinket, Hyperspeed Accelerators, Potion of Speed, use Trends or Starfall, and then there is no target to DPS and waste the whole duration. Always check the timers and decide if you can squeeze the full duration out of any cooldown or not. Fifth one. There are mainly two mechanics or specifically debuffs that can make it more difficult in phase 2, and those are the Burning Bile and Paralytic Toxin if you have to chase other people to either get cleansed or cleanse others. Sixth, to minimize the chances of getting the debuff, same as in phase 1, don't hug other people and stay away from them, as you can get it even if you weren't the target, but you were close to the target it's being casted on. Seventh, if you do get the toxin, it's just bad luck and RNG again, but it's still possible to get the 99 as it did happen to me and I managed just fine. But yeah, it's less of a smooth run to rank high this way. Just make sure you are saving rocket boots for this occasion. Quickly rocket boots to a tank with Burning Bile, while ideally throwing instant cast on the move to keep the ABC, always be casting. 8. Positioning. Try to position yourself somewhere in the middle of the room, but somewhat closer to the tank that's tanking the mobile worm, while still do mind the previous stay away from other people rule. This way, you are not only close in case you get the debuff to get cleansed, but more importantly, you don't have to move until submerged, and this way you should not have any range issues for neither of the worms. And last but not least, there's the phase 3 and Icehowl enters the arena. So first one, again, make sure you stay more than 15 yards from the boss due to whirl, which can knockback you, but this shouldn't be a problem as range DPS. Second one, Massive Crash. This is the ability when he will leap in the center of arena and knock everyone back to the nearest wall. He will target random person and turn in their direction to cast Trample. He's basically charging at that target and you have few seconds to run away, else you get one shot, he enrages, and your parse is over. However, if everyone managed to dodge the trample, then he's gonna crash into the wall and receive the staggered daze effect, which basically gives you a huge DPS opportunity for 15 seconds as he doubles his damage taken, so you literally do double damage. This is why it's crucial that everyone managed to dodge the trample, because not getting the daze effect means your parse was already griefed and it will be difficult to rank high without it, so say hi to that person who failed. Not only that, but make sure you save your major cooldowns like Starfall, Trance, Hyperspeed Accelerators, Trinkets, and anything else for the double damage window. Try to time your Lunar Eclipse with the daze effect as well, so you can pop everything for heavy Starfire blasting opportunity. My Starfall usually aligns nicely with these daisies if your kill time isn't fast and you get more of them throughout the encounter. If your guild did not use Heroism on Acidmaw and Dreadscale, the staggered daze is a great option to use it as well. If you are the target, it's very easy to move away to the side without any of the speed boost effects. However, if you are not confident, use Rocket Boots if you didn't use them for Toxin Cleansing in Phase 2, or Shift to Cat and use Dash. Druid really should not have any problems dodging the charge. Fourth one, if you and your guild are really sweaty and you want to min-max your parse, you can also ask for Blessing of Protection from one of the paladins few seconds before he will leap into the middle to avoid the knockback and keep DPSing him while he's preparing to do the charge. Fifth one, if you are not getting debuffed, similar to Phase 2 Submerge, make sure you are checking the timer to refresh the dots before he leaps in the middle and knocks everyone, so they are still ticking while you are stunned. Sixth, and probably a lot underrated, but most important in my opinion, pay attention to your positioning. What do I mean by this and why is it important? He is doing one more ability roughly every 20 seconds that can affect your parse, that is the Arctic Breath, where he freezes every player caught in this cone attack and dealing 30k frost damage over 5 seconds. This can not only kill you, which means game over, but even if you survive, you were immobilized for 5 seconds and this can happen every 20 seconds. So imagine Icehowl encounter lasts 1 minute, he casts 3 Arctic Breaths, and you are out for 15 seconds from a 1 minute fight. That is 25% of the encounter where you weren't DPSing at all, so this can put you behind already on your road to 99 and make it way more difficult. So how do we minimize the chances of not getting frozen and maximize our chances of DPSing throughout the whole encounter? The answer is in positioning. Imagine this is how the Icehowl is tanked, the melee are standing with their backs against the wall to avoid knockbacks, and range and healers are spread in semicircle around Icehowl. If you decide to be in the middle of the group and then the Arctic Breath is casted, imagine someone next to you was the target and you got frozen because of it with 6 other people. So 28% of your raid is stunned for 5 seconds, doing no DPS and might even get killed. Also this way, you have very high chance to get frozen because you are close to other people from both sides, so you will get frozen if you are not the target. So what I like to do is stay away from majority of people and I like to be on the very edge, hugging the wall, positioning myself as soon as Icehowl is entering the arena. This way there is no one from one of the sides since there's a wall, so I already cut 50% of the potential danger of getting frozen from other people. Now just make sure you are away from people from your other side several yards. This option literally leaves you with only 4% chance of getting frozen, because you will get frozen most likely only if you are the target. So you keep DPSing throughout the whole encounter pretty much ignoring this mechanic. So this way you not only drastically minimize your chances of getting frozen, so increasing your personal DPS, but making a smoother kill for the whole raid, increasing the raid DPS. How? Because you are making sure less people are getting frozen. Less people frozen means more people are doing DPS, meaning making the fight shorter, increasing the value and uptime of cooldowns, pods, heroism, etc., meaning your DPS should be higher as well with faster kill time, and this leads to usually better parse. Imagine you do get hit. 24 people or 96% of the raid is most likely still DPSing, opposed to the just 18 or 72% of the raid from the first scenario. These are the talents I use for all my kills so far. It's my default single target build for ToGC, so no point picking Gale Winds or Typhoon as there is no AoE happening here. I also skip talents like Moonglow, Dream State, Intensity or Omen of Clarity, as mana shouldn't be an issue with a higher crit rating on gear in Phase 3. But I am also sometimes blessed to innovate myself or even find myself in a group with Resto Shaman to benefit from the mana tide totem. If you don't have the same perks and are struggling with mana, they suggest to shift few talents around, but it shouldn't be really needed. The only choices left that can help on single target damage are Genesis, Brambles and Alkin Frenzy, which you are free to shift those around as you like. But Genesis is pretty weak on paper in terms of DPS, Brambles and Alkin Frenzy are better options. Regarding Alkin Frenzy, I might do a separate future video about it in the future, but although it is decent in ToGC and some druids are going even 3 out of 3 to skip Brambles, because usually even 1 prog means already a better DPS than Brambles, I feel like on Beasts in particular it's mediocre at best. On my kills I wasn't lucky to get any procs, but yes, it can proc here. However, it can oftentimes proc on things you don't really want to get hit anyway, or are not that useful, like the paralytic spray for example, which gives you the toxin, so you are aiming to get cleansed from the tank anyway, so not only the duration of proc is being wasted, but you are also losing DPS compared to just standing still and blasting, or for example the knockback of the Icehowl, which you are then stunned anyway, so the whole duration of proc is wasted again. That's why I'm rather going for consistency in Brambles on Beasts, because usually the second trends are also used for the staggered days for the double damage, so having them do extra damage on top of that is nice. In terms of Glyphs, it's the trio of Moonfire, Starfall and Starfire that can dish out the most DPS with Idol of Lunar Fury and at least 2-piece tier 9. There just isn't any better alternative. If you are sitting in your tier 8 gear though, and you don't have the Idol of Lunar Fury, you will most likely benefit more from using Glyph of Insect Swarm. I'm not gonna go further into this topic, make sure to check out how to use the dots in phase 3 video, which I'm linking in the description, where I've explained this. This is pretty much it for today. Hopefully this was useful for someone. And if you like the content, consider subscribing and liking the video. Thank you and keep pumping.